Hello everyone, I'm joined with Michelle and we're just going to have a little discussion on this week's upcoming lunar eclipse. So let's just start with sharing the chart. Here is right now, let's animate this chart. This eclipse is very early here on the West Coast on Wednesday morning, pretty close to 4 o'clock a.m. This is almost the exact minute, just give you the exact moment. Yeah, 4:12 or so. So let's look at some of the themes here and then we'll just share what arises. South node in Sag with the moon. North node in Gemini with the sun. At this time, Jupiter is just getting ready to go retrograde. Jupiter will very soon, in the next coming weeks, be moving retrograde at 1 degree Pisces. So Jupiter just entered Pisces, so Jupiter will be squaring this nodal axis and this full moon. And Vesta is just beyond the exact square of the nodes. In fact, Vesta is exactly square of the nodes pretty much right now as we're doing this video. So let's tune in and just share some reflections on this. First, just to appreciate the nature of eclipses in general. The way that I think of the nodes is they are a portal. They're where energy moves in and out. Karmically, the nodes speak to what is emerging, what's coming into life in this moment, what dynamic seeds of the past are sort of arising right now. They sort of teach us that the linearity of time, as we usually think of it, one thing happens, next thing happens, it's not entirely accurate. That the undercurrent to our present moment experience often has its karmic roots in things that we're not consciously aware of. This is very much a big part of what the South Node represents. And so any transit involving the South Node says here are dynamics of the past coming to a head now to be integrated. And then the North Node symbolizes an ongoing evolutionary direction. So these nodal points always are portals. Right? They're just where the undercurrent of the past, right? That which is sort of emerging right now is coming through constantly, and the ongoing evolutionary direction of where we're all going. They're very fascinating, and to be in touch with the energy of the nodes is to actually be in touch with this ongoing flow of evolution. And there's always an ongoing process of change and transmutation moment to moment. Of course, transmutation is a Pluto word, but the nodes themselves speak to the fact that what's happening right now is an evolutionary process. That this moment has a much greater meaning beyond just the simple appearance of what things seem to be. There's an evolutionary trajectory to it. Eclipses, this is a full moon lunar eclipse, of course, emphasize that. So we're dealing with the Sagittarius-Gemini axis. And what I'll just start with is sharing a little thought on the nature of this particular eclipse, focusing on the ruler of the South Node, Jupiter, squaring the nodes. One thing that I find, and this is an ongoing learning for me, and it's very much highlighted in the Gemini-Sagittarius axis, is no one has all of the information. And that no one's understanding of reality, no one's realization of the truth is complete. And a big dilemma that often arises within the Sagittarius-Gemini axis is we can have certain insights or revelations. And if we don't understand that there's still more to see, there's more to realize, we can easily set up shop in our realizations and create a certainty of a conclusivity in our realizations to say this is the answer, this is the truth. This can be, here's the right political perspective. Maybe we had a realization about politics. Then it becomes a crystallized way of thinking. Like, oh, this is the answer. Or this is the right way to eat. We realize, oh, the standard American diet, what they recommend for us, isn't healthy for everyone. and we have these realizations about juicing or raw food or paleo or whatever. And maybe there's something very profound about it, especially because perhaps our perspective on reality prior to this new insight was far inferior to what we've come to realize and come to see. So there could be something quite profound, but there's so much more to know. And this is where, and that's a very Sagittarius issue, right? You got so many answers. And a part of the issue with the lunar eclipse in Sag, it really brings up all the things that we've told ourselves that we know. This is one dimension of it. So Gemini comes in with the sun really highlighting for every certainty, there's another perspective. There's more information. There's more data that will actually serve as a curveball to what we thought was certain and absolute. And the issue with this, I'm overcoming a head cold, or I guess more than a head, but it's been here for a while. It was here for a while, and drinking hot water out of my Sagittarius mug. She also has a Sagittarius mug. There are two general ways of responding to that. Either the humility. The Sagittarius-Gemini axis really does speak to humility in a sense, because if we're open to learn, open to more experience, there's humility in that. But if we're certain, then the cup's already full and we're not going to learn. So either there's a sort of humility that says, okay, I don't have it all figured out. I'm open to learn. And the next realization isn't going to invalidate your previous realization. It's just going to expand upon it and show you, oh, there's more, right? In a different context, environment, temperature, body, region, civilization, planet, moment, time of day, phase of life, this perspective also is true. That's the nuance with Gemini, is that there are actually so many data points to put into the equation. I've realized that gluten is bad for my body. Maybe, and I'm just making that as a random example because I generally don't eat gluten. This is not to play with anyone. But to make that a belief means we are absolutely certain that under all circumstances, this is not the right way to eat. And so if we're going to resist this Gemini perspective, what happens is it actually results in double downing. Like, no, this is the way everyone has to think. This is the way everyone needs to be. And we see this happening with the Gemini nodal axis right now. This is especially for a while with a Neptune that was squaring it. Neptune's kind of out of that square right now. But just how disillusioning it can be and how profoundly confusing it can be to have all these different views on what's true in the world. Like, what's the right way? What's the right way to think of this? And we can have these realizations, but the moment we're certain about it is the moment we actually stop our growth. So let me take a pause. And do you want to share anything to this?
Sure. When I've been thinking about the eclipse, even just now, one of the teachings that's been most relevant in my life is a lesson from A Course in Miracles that says, I don't know what anything is for. Because with the eclipse window, a lot can change, a lot can be stirred up. This is the beginning of a cycle that may have incredible, long-lasting, long-reaching effects. If you think about eclipse windows, they're really part of a 19-year cycle. And so when I think I know what a person, place, role, where I'm going, what I'm doing in my life, I'm actually missing out on the present moment and the possibility for healing that's latent in everything. And eclipses can bring particularly intense and or what might feel like traumatizing events or past emotional releases to the surface, particularly with full moon eclipses. The energy is there because there's a catalyzing of evolutionary growth that's happening. And when I think I know what is happening, it can be devastating. And emotionally, there can be a whole setup of my thinking that says, "Oh, this is never going to be fixed," or "My life is, never going to be the way that I want it to be," et cetera, et cetera. And that particular lesson of I don't know what anything is for opens up a possibility, a window that actually my belief system or thinking or even state of experience might not give me a full picture of what's happening right now. And from that place of humility, I can actually take stock of what's growing inside of me and what is ripe and ready for change, and really orient myself and my life towards that change. And I was thinking recently, it's like, babies are born on full moons. Children right now are graduating high school or college, and stepping out into the world, and they might be full of lots of information and have this education behind them, and actually not know at all what it's like to be living in the real world, having a job, getting their own place to live, working. And when we think we know, we don't actually get to experience the freedom, the liberation, and the road ahead that wants to unfold within life and take us somewhere. And I remember a day in particular when I quit my job, and it was like, I knew I was going to start something new, but I had no idea what was coming in my life after that moment. And it led to this incredible adventure with a friend of mine, where I met some of the first clients that I ever worked with. And my whole life reoriented around a particular area in San Francisco that I had really never even been to before that moment. That's the kind of energy of an eclipse, where you can be brought into something, or people can come into your life that you maybe never would have gone there before, but something is ripe for change. And I think there's a lot that can move within us when we hold an attitude that says, I don't know what anything is for. I don't know what even is going to happen next.
The thoughts that arose, connect to them. Yeah. In being open to the connections and experiences that naturally arise, what I realize is there's a correlation between that and not knowing. If we're certain about what our life is doing and where it's going and what everything is for, and this is a Jupiter issue, we become blind to the opportunities that are presenting themselves. And there's a really profound invitation at this time during this week, and really for both eclipses, this is really quite profound, to explore the energy of authenticity and sincerity. Because authenticity and sincerity really it's the opposite of holding on to an answer. It's very much in the moment. And the energy of authenticity says, this is true for me right now. And it's the energy of the present moment. It's not so much a belief. It's like you can hear someone talk and factually it could be true, but it may not feel sincere. So sincerity is an energetic. And when we're in touch with the energetic of truth, it means we're not trying to live out some kind of belief, some kind of idea. So let me introduce Jupiter. It's meaningful. So as Jupiter is stationing retrograde, which we'll delve deeply into in the upcoming Jupiter class sometime later this year, I don't know when that's happening, in the retrograde class series, it highlights this process of tuning in more deeply to our intuitive knowing of reality. So Jupiter and Sagittarius corresponds to an intuitive sensing of reality. It's not empirical. We're all attuned to the feeling of there's something more. There's more to learn, more to experience, more to expand. There's more growth possible here. So the fundamental optimism in the Jupiter archetype. as it moves retrograde, it can really bring up any beliefs, constructs, ideas, convictions that keep us from really cultivating a more clear, optimistic attitude that will allow us to enter into greater, expanded experience in life. The issue with Jupiter stationing in Pisces, square in this nodal axis, is the disillusionment that occurs relative to two ideas. One, I've told myself for certain, this is not just a Sagittarius thing, now it's a Pisces thing. This is true and it has ultimate meaning. I'm putting all of my meaning in this person, place, thing, experience, belief construct, the relationship, what it means, what it's supposed to look like, who this teacher is for me, this political movement, my country, my nation, my health, my body, belief in this diet. Everything can become not just something that we think is true, a belief system, a thing that we are right about. It can become that which we surrender to. Once we're surrendering to it, it's actually a little bit beyond just simple belief system. It's beyond a philosophy or a way of thinking about life. And now is a place where we are depending on it as the source of actually ultimate meaning. And so an issue here can be the disillusionment that occurs relative to the delusions, the ideas of reality that we've held. And it can very much feel like the flow of life events, how things are actually showing up, manifests as a dissonance because it's contrary to what we've told ourselves is and must be, which can equally manifest the opposite experience in the disillusionment of giving up hope entirely. Like you were saying, the sense of having the certainty of, things will never change, there's no hope, things won't get better. Jupiter can be incredibly optimistic and incredibly pessimistic. Just follow any Jupiter transit. And the key, the secret here is to just become curious about our thoughts about the thing that we're thinking about. It's not about putting on some kind of blind belief system, like, be positive, all that kind of stuff. It's very much just getting curious and asking ourselves, what's true? If our cosmological bottom line is every opportunity in life, every experience offers the opportunity for some kind of learning, that life isn't here to fuck us over. Life isn't here to make things really hard and difficult, right? If we just kind of reference an underlying perspective and mentality as a starting point, then we can look at our situation and say, okay, I don't understand what's going on. Another teaching in the Course in Miracles is, I am not upset for the reasons I think. Okay, clearly I don't have a clear perspective on things. In fact, I'm upset. Therefore, I don't have a clear perspective. But let this not be any kind of invalidation on any level at all. Because the truth, especially in Pisces, it's so compassionate. It's so expansive and inclusive. It wants to say everything is allowed. Everything is allowed. Like, the answers that we come to should not at all invalidate or Jupiter alienate any part of us. There must be an even broader, more expanded way of thinking that includes even more of our experience. And that's a part of the ongoing expansive journey. And really, Pisces is everything. So there's an ongoing infinite compassion available with this transit, in even facing any sense of things aren't working out, things aren't what I want them to be, or it feels like an exaggerated blow-up situation of just uncomfortableness. And connecting with an openness, a softness that doesn't push anything away, but just references. And this is where there's a little bit of trust that's needed here. A little bit of trust, actually. Just, I trust that healing is the ultimate truth here, that there is purpose, there's potential here, that it is not God's will for me to suffer in the next 5 minutes. Just a little bit of faith that there is inherent to life something inherently freeing and loving available for us. That's all that's needed. And just to bring that into the moment. a little bit of openness. What's the truth here? Where is healing wanting to be embraced? And that's where I feel there's such an expanded journey that can open up for us during this time with that attitude.
When you were sharing that, I had a terrible joke come to mind.
Say it.
I'm going to say. It's a joke that like references the sort of Jupiter retrograde healing possibility in a way. Follow me with this one. Men are like parking spaces. All the good ones are taken and the rest are handicapped. And it's terrible because there's a way in which we can become, like you were talking about, in a state of disillusionment with each and every healing experience. So there can be a repeated feeling of like life is handing me heartbreak, suffering, difficulty, challenge over and over again, or I'm seeking something. I'm seeking, and it's very much more in the seeking energy. This is the South Node in Sagittarius. I'm seeking a partner. I'm seeking community. I'm seeking the right job, the right situation. And for every situation that repeatedly hands us a lesson that what we're seeking is not fulfilling us. So the man that we meet who, like, as we date him, gets progressively more disenchanting or shows us more of his true colors or ghosts us. You know, the community where we move in with our housemates, and then progressively more and more they start to show their true colors, and things that they do irritate us, and we end up having to move. The job that we start that ends up, you know, turning out to be something that just works us to the grindstone, where we feel like we're being taken advantage of. All of these things are pointing towards a deeper work within ourselves. And this can be, you know, I've been really feeling the Saturn station retrograde, that depression and hardcore loss of faith in humanity, or in, you know, in the other, in what we're called here to do, our purpose. But it's always lost in the thing that we're seeking that's outside of ourselves, that is going to give us something that we don't have. And as long as there's something that is going to give us that thing, there's going to be a loss. There's going to be immense grief. There's going to be disillusionment that will happen as a part of the karmic journey. And this can be some of the most painful work of our lives, is to lose the thing. You know, like I was acting on a friend who lost the love of her life, you know, and was posting about his passing. It's like, oh, I have this thing that I wanted, this beautiful relationship, this idealized version of my life. And of course, they pass away too early, like, to be able, and how, but that has given her a particularly incredible journey of healing and forgiveness and connection to herself, that, you know, it's like we don't get to necessarily choose the lesson, but the way coming back to oneself in the wake of disillusionment, in the wake of heartbreak, in the wake of grief, can be such a powerful return to an unending source of connection to the truth of who we are, to our wholeness. And this song came to me the other day. I was loving my brother, loving my sister.
Will you sing it?
Oh, I will. I don't know if I sing it on live stream. I sang it to a friend, and that felt like the most vulnerable thing I could do. Yeah, loving one another, no different on the inside. Loving my brother, loving my sister, loving the other, no different on the inside. And it just speaks to this core place from which our true optimism and faith can come from. It's like on the inside. Okay, then if this person ghosts me, or if something in my relationship feels like it's dissolving and I feel a lot of fear, I can go into the inside of the place where that love lives, and there's something that can never be removed from me. There's something that is an anchor that I can return to again and again and again. So I feel like, sorry for the the bad joke.
That's great. I mean, I get the point you were making. Yeah. A lot of people think those kinds of things. Yeah, replace. There are no men available with, whatever thing we like to complain about. Yeah. Let's take a look at the chart again and see if there are any final thoughts that arise for us.
Oh, I found up one thing.
Yeah.
Just to mention that from an astrological perspective, we're in a really interesting time where pretty much every single planet on the chart, with the exception of Venus and Mars, is in its retrograde shadow or preparing to be retrograde. So Saturn just stationed retrograde, Pluto's already retrograde, Jupiter's moving in its shadow, Mercury's in its shadow, Uranus is in its shadow. It's just pretty much everything will be moving into this retrograde motion. And I feel like that is just an indication of where we're going with all of this, how impactful it is, really carrying through the early part of the fall, and then progressively, it's like Chiron's in its retrograde shadow, Uranus is in its retrograde shadow. So if you haven't already signed up for the retrograde class series that Ari is teaching, you can actually get the recordings of the first 2 planets that he taught, and you can join the classes for the rest of the series as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. They all start going retrograde throughout the summer and culminates in the fall. Then in the fall time, they just start unwinding and going direct again towards the end of the year. So it's very interesting.
Really a fascinating time, and taking it on as a personal practice. Being someone who was born with so many planets retrograde in my chart, I find these times are incredibly rich, and that whatever's arising in our life now is sort of preparing a gateway for a deepening of our own learning and evolution. And, it's always, once you get through, especially with some of these planets, there's a first, second, and third pass of squares. Once you get through these particular challenges in the retrograde cycle, the solution that is revealing itself on the other side is always more beautiful than we could have imagined.
Beautiful. Yeah, blessed eclipse season to all. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.